Hello, genealogy friends, and welcome to this week's episode of FTN TV, which is late and coming to you from my car in a winter wonderland. This is sort of a special episode. I'm not going to follow the usual format that I've been following, where I talk about news and then I do a quick 5 tips list, and then I talk about something larger, because I went on a family history trip with one of my kids over the weekend and I wanted to talk about that. So we had the privilege of being able to take a couple of days, literally a couple of days. It was a 48-hour trip, and fly from Salt Lake City to San Francisco. It was me and my 9-year-old. And the purpose of the trip was really family history. I mean, it was also just spend time together and take a quick vacation, but there were some things that came together that made it the perfect time to go, even though I have a course coming out and I'm really busy and I've got Roots Tech next week and all this stuff. It just felt like it was the right time to go. And, it's hard when we have taken our kids on vacation to the Bay Area. We haven't spent a lot of time on family history. For those of you who don't know, my parents are from Napa, and most of my extended family is in the Bay Area in California. So we would go home and visit all the time when I was younger. But interestingly, I think in the chaos of just growing up and traveling and things like that, my parents didn't spend a ton of time talking to me about family history. We saw family, there were family photos. I knew a lot about our family history, I think. And I have memories of my dad telling me about his father's involvement in the Coast Guard while we were looking at ships at the Maritime Museum. And I have a lot of memories of being at China Camp and talking about, this used to happen and this used to happen. But 2 things. 1, I don't think that it was ever the focus of our traveling. And 2, when you're little, you have those moments where your parents are driving you around and they're like, oh, there's my high school. Oh, there's where we used to live. And it's just, you sort of recognize it for a second, but there's a lot of information coming at you when you're little and it's hard to retain it. I think the family history, a lot of it was also just not passed down, not because people were withholding it, but the people who knew it and didn't really think a lot about the fact that other people didn't know it. I wanted to take my son and really have a couple of days where we talked about, and not all of our family history, but this specific Chinese part of our family history. I'm biracial, so I actually have a lot of family history on the other side too, that at some point we need to go and have a whole family moment for that side of the family as well. But this time around, I took my son to Chinatown. I'm biracial and my husband's Caucasian. So my children really, from both a genetic and from a history standpoint, have a much looser grasp on their Chinese heritage than I do. And I wanted to, give him some grounding history of, this is where your family was. This is who your family is. And so I was really deliberate about that. And, we had fun too. We ran around, we got ice cream, stuff like that. But we very intentionally went and did some family history activities. And to support that, I made this book that talked about just not all of our family history. Because again, that's the thing, you can't overwhelm people, especially when they're 9. And my son, like me, is on the autism spectrum. And so he has the ability to focus, but when he's not focused, it's hard for him. And having tools and guides helps him focus more easily. So I created these pages that talked about our family history, but also showed him visually, this is who you descend from. This is the timeline. This is the evidence that I have to show you to support this story. And that was the thing that really struck me when we're walking around, we're doing this family history stuff, was that I had been to some of these places and some of the places I hadn't. And I had heard some of these stories and all of that sort of stuff. But I think until I put my family together in a family tree notebook and really went page by page through these ancestor stories and laid it out, I didn't connect all the dots even for myself. I didn't have that solid, no, my family was here, not here in the general, oh, my family's from California. My family was here on this sidewalk. They were here on this street. They were here at this port. They were here on this island. And I think that it's not just connecting to the geography, it is connecting to the story. I think that that's so important. when it comes to processing family history, because we can put names and dates together all day long. We can go out generations and you can have all of the names and all of they were born and then they died and they were the parents of this person and then that person was born and then they died. But I think that the real substance of family history is in the in-between, right? It's in the dash between birth and death. And I know that my son now has a much more concrete understanding, not of everybody, but of a few people of his family history. But I think he also, it was like I could see history was starting to crack open for him a little bit, that he was starting to connect that these aren't just, paper doll flat figures in history that he descends from. These were people, and they had, this is their city, and this is their weather. Maybe this isn't what it smells like, but look, there are smells, and what do you think it smelled like back then? I mean, we had these conversations, and that story, I think, is going to make his history real for him in a way that it wasn't real for me until I became much older. And honestly, I did genealogy for a long time before I figured out that I wanted to put everything together in a family tree notebook. But I think that was the step. I think that was the thing that not only meant that I could share it with other people, like my kids, but it was the thing that actually built that connection for me, and broke it open for me to be able to see it and to say, this is who I come from and this is who they were. Anyway, it was super fun. The things that we did, we went and saw, we stood in a couple of places. My aunt and my cousin were able to join us just for a little tiny bit of our tiny trip. And I dragged them down this street to stand in the exact spot where my great-great-grandfather lived and worked. It's like, it was demolished in the earthquake after he lived there. So the historical building is not only not there, but it was like such a nothing spot. It was a garage door. And I stood there and I'm videotaping and I'm taking photos, and I have these photos of them, and you can tell that they're standing in the street like, why are we here? But I had the pages out. My son was totally into it because I had the pages out about his life. We were like looking at but yeah, that was kind of a funny moment. But we did that. We went to the orphanage where my great-grandmother grew up. So his great-great-grandmother. And luckily, I have this scrapbook that she collected when she was in her teens. She lived in the orphanage from about 10 to 20. I think as she got older, she was there more off and on. And then it wasn't until she was 20 that she really moved away. But so she has all these photos of her, living at the orphanage. And a lot of the photos are of her outside the building. We weren't able to go inside the building because it was closed. But we were able to take some of the photos of her outside the building, and I had my son recreate them. And it was so much fun. He really got into it. He was really good at it. And we talked about, what do you think was going on and what's going on in the photo and all this different stuff. And yeah, that was a lot of fun. The photos turned out really great. And this is a place I've been wanting to visit for a long time. I can't remember if I've ever been there before. I don't know if my parents ever took me over there. It's in Chinatown, but it's like not in the heart of everything. It's up one of those classic San Francisco 45-degree hills. And, we trudged up the hill just to look at a building. That's the flat of it. But we trudged up a hill and spent 30 minutes just walking around and marveling and looking at, oh, look in the photos. And this brick's exactly the same. I mean, these photos are they're more than 100 years old, 110, 120 years old. And the railings and everything are exactly the same. I don't know. It was really great. It was just really fun. So yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about today. I'm going to try to share some of the pages as templates. I didn't use Family Tree Notebooks pages. I printed some of the Family Tree Notebooks pages out and put them into the book, but for the main pages that I used to explain to him how he was connected to these people and to give him these brief rundowns, I used a different template that was just a little more kid friendly. It was actually one of the templates that I had from the kid course that I opened last summer and then shut back down because I didn't have time to both be a mom and teach a kids course, which I'm still kind of disappointed about that. I haven't figured out how to make that work. Speaking of courses, the next FTN TV, which will come out at its regular time on Tuesday, I'm going to be talking all about the course because the course opens for enrollment on Wednesday, and people have been asking me lots of questions. So that the next one I already know. It's going to be all about that. There are some good things coming for the whole community, even if you're not planning on taking the course. And I'm excited. I'm at the point now where I've been sitting on it. There's a lot of work to do still, but I've been sitting on the course for so long, being ready to share it. And I've just been eye on the calendar, March 1st, because that's when enrollment opens and I can finally share all of the stuff that I've been working on. And there's a lot with this one because I've been working on this course now since the beginning of September. And I told you guys a while ago, I hired like professional team to help me really put this one together and have this be the signature course for Family Tree Notebooks. I'm just really excited about it. So that's what the next FTN TV will be about. And Roots Tech is next week. And so I will also be popping in a little bit more on my social media channels to show or to share some of the stuff from Roots Tech. I don't know if you saw, they added Mirako, who I've seen speak before and I really like her, and Sean Astin, the actor. They've been added as keynotes. There's other things that have been coming out. It's going to be really fun to get together with everybody and have that moment again, because I obviously haven't been to Roots Tech since 2020. So anyway, I hope that you guys enjoyed hearing about my trip. Those of you who left comments and followed along while we were there, thank you. That was fun. It was just a good time. And yeah, talk about a privilege. Is there any bigger privilege or luxury than being able to take a couple days and go somewhere like that? I mean, we didn't stay in fancy places. We didn't eat in fancy places. But I just think luxury is having the freedom and the ability to take a couple of days and just have a core memory making moment. So I feel very lucky. But anyway, that's all from me. I'm going to go shovel my driveway again. And yeah, stay safe, and I will see you next week. Hello, genealogy friends. Hey, back it up, buddy. No, don't do that. Luckily, you were all here to witness me yelling at my kid. Back it up. You might have seen, I took my middle kid on a quick 48-hour family history trip, and I brought him down to the Maritime Museum near Fisherman's Wharf so that we could see the Grace Kwan. The Grace Kwan is named after my great-grandmother, so it's named after his great-great-grandmother, and I wanted to show it to him. And they told me it was docked here. And it is. So here's the pier, right? Here's Hyde Street Pier. This is the museum. And there's the Grace Kwan. It's, let me see if I can zoom in. There it is. I mean, especially with the sails down and kind of parked out in the middle of nowhere. Let's just say that when I showed the 9-year-old, oh, now I can't zoom back in. I showed the 9-year-old and I was like, look, that was named after your great-great-grandmother. And he was like, great. So I really can't zoom in now or zoom out. Wow. And you were here. Yep. But we went to the orphanage where she grew up yesterday, and we went and found the place where his great-great-great-grandfather lived and worked when he first came over from China. It is now basically like a garage door on Grant Street, or Grant Avenue in Chinatown. What else did we see? We looked for Uncle Frank's picture in the Oakland airport and found it. And we went to the Chinese Historical Society Museum. Anyway, we're out of here tonight, but yeah, the Grace Kwan, not the most impressive of family history things, since it's just this random boat way out there, but it's beautiful weather here today in San Francisco, so we got really lucky.